everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I thought I would sit down and talk to you guys and gals a little bit about something today. And I want to state, you do not need perfect form to start lifting. And this is something that I see a lot of people in the industry, influencers, other people who are gatekeeping for fitness, who are saying things like, oh yeah, no, you can't load anything until we have perfect form. We have to just work with the empty bar until you spend weeks or months having perfect form. And if we do not achieve this, then we can't lift, we can't squat, we can't deadlift, we can't bench press, we can't do these big free weight exercises. And I'm here to tell you guys that is complete nonsense. And I'm not saying you shouldn't work on form. I'm not saying that if you're going to do these, you shouldn't start researching form. You could hire a coach like me to help you with your form. You could read books. You could read Starting Strength. You could look at different tutorials. There's things you could do to learn these exercises, and you probably should. But keeping in mind, these are the movements that most people starting out would benefit the most from. So we need to be very, very clear. These big exercises are really how you build your foundation. It's where you get the most bang for your bucks. They're your meat and potatoes lifts. And so, yes, they really are where most people should start. And, and you get people like, well, no, that's too much. Just put them on machines. It's not going to produce quite the same results. You're going to get better results if you do these big free weight exercises, particularly the really big ones like squats and deadlifts or variations of them. These big exercises. But you have people who always push this, well, we have to have perfect form with no lateral shift or we need to have just this perfect alignment on the bench press. And here's the thing I'm going to laugh at. I've had people who came to me who did kind of get hurt getting strong on some of these movements and then hired me to fix them, who got really strong and still only sustained very minor injuries lifting with form that was so atrocious that it would baffle your mind. Meaning, I had a client once who had his bench press over 300 pounds by the time he hired me, and his shoulders hurt all the time. His bench press looked like this. Okay, the bar was all the way back in his hands like this, into his fingertips like this, almost doing a JM press to his chest. Right, the bar all the way like this, not here stacked over the wrist like it's supposed to be, right? It was all the way back into his fingertips doing this with all of this torque on his shoulders, okay? And he got up to 300 pounds doing that. He's like, yeah, my shoulders hurt all the time. Same thing, his squats were, again, absolutely hideous. He was doing 450 pounds. Okay, so he had them in kilos, so he had a 140 kilogram bench over a 200 kilograms, so like a 205 kilogram squat that looked like a strange Good Morning hybrid, to where his whole upper back just rounded. So he would drop into the bottom as he came forward, his whole pelvis rolled forward, his knees shifted, and his whole upper back rounded. He looked like a dog taking a poop, okay? And he was only mildly injured from this. Now, the reason I tell this story is to point out to people that with bad form, you'd be surprised sometimes how well your body adapts and builds itself up to handle even the worst form sometimes. And so kind of my point there is he still managed to, again, he still had problems, and I think he ended up having to have like a surgery on his hip to repair something. He continued to squat heavy after that. Due to just his egregious form. But that's how bad it was. And it's because he never bothered to even learn, and it just shocked me that he didn't. But that's an example to show that, look, it's not even necessary, because had he not even gotten that strong, he still probably would have been okay. So my point with telling that is, for a lot of people, as long as your form is passable, it doesn't have to be perfect for you to get started. Do you need to probably improve it over time? Yes. But if you can go look up a basic squat or a basic bench press and it's passable, you'll be okay. In fact, I would say for the bench, for most of you out there, if you can get it just as basic as getting the bar in the base of your palm, and you can make a fist and you can touch it below the nipple, you're probably safe enough to load it well up to for a couple of years before you have any major issues. And again, there's a lot we could do with that, and I do a lot of coaching on things like the bench press. But for most people, that will actually stave off most problems. Simply stacking the wrist correctly. If you can just do that, you'll probably be fine. With squatting, if you can just keep your upper back from rounding, right? You can just learn to pull your elbows down. You'll probably be okay while you're learning the basics, and you learn to just go deep enough and don't use weights that's so heavy that you can't get deep. And if you just do that and then slowly work on your form, you'll probably be fine. Okay, but everyone wants to gatekeep these things, and they don't understand that it's usually the combination of bad form with overuse that causes the injuries. And again, when I say bad form, I don't mean that you should be flopping around and cheating, but if your form isn't perfect, like, if you have a little bit of a lateral shift, maybe you have a little too much forward lean or whatever in your squat, right? Something's a little bit out of balance, but you're still learning. The odds that you're going to have problems from this are relatively small. They're very, very small. It's when you start flopping and bouncing and doing goofball stuff instead of just trying to stay strict. So even if you just stay strict and tight and your form is questionable, but you're not cheating and flopping the weight around everywhere, and you're not trying to train yourself into the ground to where you're then getting overuse injuries, for even novices, ranked novices who are new lifters, even older people who are over 40, over 50, they'll probably be okay. Now, again, I want to state they do eventually need to get better, and they should continue to learn. But the idea that you need all of this to get started is simply not true. And I've had clients who came to me who needed help with this stuff, and they're like, well, I don't feel comfortable till my form is perfect. Can I hire you just for form coaching? Which I agreed to do, but I also told them you could have started loading already. You didn't need to wait to run the program till I coached you through this, but that's what they needed to feel comfortable. And as a coach, I'm not going to turn that away because I do offer form coaching as a service. But I did even kind of encourage those people and say, you're young and healthy. You can start loading these exercises now and start adding weight every week on a structured program, even if it's not perfect while we work on it. And so again, people need to be honest about this, and that's the problem, is that we do see people in this community who push this. Oh no, it's got to be perfect. It's got to be perfect, guys, like Squat University, or we can't load it. We need to reduce the weight. They'll take advanced lifters and let's take you all the way back to the empty bar till we get it perfect. There's no need for that. No need. Just do decent. Just learn basic form, which most of you can learn in a single day, probably on your own, just videoing yourself with your smartphone. You can probably learn basic form in a single day. I have free tutorials and stuff on it. There's books you can find with basic tutorials, and just get the basics down and start training. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.